In the vast emptiness of space, where civilizations rise and fall like distant stars, there exists a universal truth that every species learns too late. Never underestimate the ones who crawl out of gravity wells the hard way. The Zephyrian Empire had conquered 47 star systems without breaking a sweat. Their plasma cannons could melt continents, their shields could deflect asteroid impacts, and their warriors were bred for combat across a dozen generations. When their scouts detected a small, poorly defended human outpost on the rim of nowhere, orbiting an unremarkable yellow star, it seemed like the perfect place to demonstrate their superiority to the galaxy. They expected frightened colonists begging for mercy. They expected outdated weapons and desperate pleas. They expected an easy victory to add to their growing reputation. What they got instead would become a legend whispered across the galaxy for centuries to come. Because while the Zephyrians had been bred for war, humans had been forged by it. And when Earth's best defenders stood between their people and annihilation, the universe was about to learn why humanity had earned their place among the stars not through conquest, but through something far more dangerous: the absolute refusal to surrender. This is the story of Outpost 7, where 32 humans held the line against impossible odds, and where the galaxy learned that sometimes the smallest target bites back the hardest. Commander Sarah Chen stood at the observation deck of Outpost 7, watching the morning light of Kepler 442b paint the alien landscape in shades of amber and gold. The planet below stretched endlessly, its surface a mixture of crystalline formations and flowing metallic rivers that caught the light like liquid mercury. It was beautiful in a way that Earth's children were still learning to appreciate, but today that beauty felt fragile, threatened. "Ma'am, we've got incoming transmissions from the perimeter sensors," called Lieutenant Marcus Webb from the communications station. His voice carried an edge that made Chen turn away from the viewport. Webb was one of the calmest soldiers she'd ever served with, a man who'd maintained his composure during the Titan mining riots and the Proxima Centauri incident. If he was worried, she should be too. Chen walked briskly across the command center, her boots clicking against the polished metal floor. The outpost hummed around them, a constant reminder of the life support systems working overtime to keep 32 humans alive in this remote corner of space. Outpost 7 wasn't much to look at from the outside, a cluster of interconnected modules clinging to an asteroid barely 2 kilometers across, but it served its purpose as an early warning station and research facility. "Show me what we've got," Chen said, settling into her command chair. Webb's fingers danced across his console, and the main display filled with sensor data. Red dots appeared at the edge of their detection range, moving in perfect formation toward their position. Chen counted them quickly. 27 vessels, arranged in a pattern she didn't recognize but which screamed military precision. "Unknown configuration," reported Ensign Kim Rodriguez from the tactical station. "But the energy signatures are off the charts. Each of those ships is putting out more power than our entire outpost." Chen studied the approaching fleet, her mind racing through possibilities. First contact protocols were clear, but these ships weren't broadcasting any of the standard peaceful approach signals. They were coming fast, direct, and in formation. This wasn't exploration, it was conquest. "Time to intercept?" she asked. "At current speed, 6 hours and 43 minutes. Rodriguez replied. "Ma'am, should I send a message to Earth Command?" Chen almost laughed. Earth Command was 8 light years away. Even if they sent a message immediately, it would take 8 years to reach home, and 8 more for any response to come back. By then, whatever was going to happen here would be ancient history. "Do it anyway," she said. "Full tactical report, our position, and—" She paused, looking around the command center at her crew. These weren't soldiers, not really. They were scientists, technicians, researchers who'd volunteered for a quiet posting on the frontier. Most of them had never seen combat outside of training simulations. "Tell them we'll hold the line," she finished. Webb nodded and began composing the message. Chen turned her attention back to the approaching fleet, her mind shifting into the tactical mode that had kept her alive through 3 tours of duty in Earth's colonial defense force. Outpost 7 wasn't defenseless, exactly, but it wasn't designed to fight off a fleet either. They had point defense lasers for asteroid deflection, some mining charges, and a handful of personal weapons. Against 27 warships, it should have been laughable. Should have been. "Rodriguez, I want a complete inventory of everything we can use as a weapon," Chen ordered. "Everything. God dead, mining equipment, industrial tools, the coffee machine if it can be weaponized." "The coffee machine, ma'am?" "I'm kidding about the coffee machine. Probably." Chen stood and began pacing. "Webb, start pulling up everything we know about hostile alien species. Cross-reference with these energy signatures. Maybe we can figure out who we're dealing with." As her crew scrambled to follow orders, Chen found herself thinking about home. Not Earth exactly, though she'd been born in the sprawling megalopolis of Neo-Singapore. Home was wherever humans gathered to push the boundaries a little further, to learn something new, to plant a flag in the darkness and say, "We were here." Outpost 7 was home to 32 people who'd left everything behind to study an alien world, and Chen would be damned if she let some unknown species wipe them out without a fight. "Ma'am," Webb called out, his voice tight with excitement or fear. "I've got something." The computers identified the energy signatures. They match historical records from the Proxima Centauri system. Chen felt ice form in her stomach. Proxima Centauri had been humanity's first colony outside the solar system. It had also been humanity's first total loss to hostile aliens. The Zephyrian Empire had swept through the system like a hurricane, destroying everything human in less than 6 hours. 12,000 colonists gone. The only reason Earth knew what had happened was a single escape pod that had managed to jump to hyperspace before the slaughter ended. "Zephyrians," Chen said quietly. "Well, that explains the formation flying." The Zephyrians were infamous across human space. They appeared to be a warrior culture that viewed conquest as a form of artistic expression. Their ships were beautiful, deadly, and crewed by beings who had been genetically modified for combat across dozens of generations. They were stronger than humans, faster than humans, and according to the survivors from Proxima Centauri, they seemed to enjoy the hunt more than the kill. "Ma'am, what are your orders?" Rodriguez asked. Chen looked around the command center again. Her people were scared. She could see it in their eyes, but they were also determined. They'd all volunteered for frontier duty, which meant they all understood that sometimes the frontier fought back. "We're going to make them work for it," she said simply. "Rodriguez, start modifying our mining charges for use as ship-to-ship weapons. I want proximity detonators and remote triggers. Webb, send a message to the approaching fleet. Standard first contact protocol, but make it clear we're aware of their identity and their reputation." "What should I tell them, ma'am?" Chen smiled grimly. "Tell them that Outpost 7 welcomes the Zephyrian Empire to human space, and that we hope they enjoy their visit, because it's going to be their last one." As her crew rushed to follow orders, Chen returned to the observation deck. The alien landscape below seemed somehow more precious now, more worth protecting. Somewhere out there, 27 Zephyrian warships were closing in, expecting to add another easy victory to their collection. They probably thought they were facing frightened colonists with nothing but harsh language and good intentions. They were about to learn that humans had brought more than good intentions to the stars. Dr. James Harrison found Commander Chen 2 hours later, hunched over a tactical display in the secondary command room. The display showed Outpost 7 from every angle, highlighting potential defensive positions and weak points. Chen had been a combat engineer before accepting command of the outpost, and her engineering mind was now focused on turning their peaceful research station into a fortress. "Sarah," Harrison said quietly. He'd been the outpost's chief scientist for 3 years, and in that time he'd learned to read Chen's moods. Right now, she was in full tactical mode, the same state of focused intensity she'd shown during the asteroid impact that had nearly destroyed their power grid last year. "James." Chen didn't look up from the display. "How are the evacuations going?" "That's what I wanted to talk to you about. Half the staff is refusing to leave." Now Chen did look up, her dark eyes reflecting the blue glow of the tactical display. "Explain." Harrison pulled up a chair and sat down across from her. He was a tall, thin man with the kind of pale complexion that came from spending too much time under artificial light, studying data instead of living under real suns. But his eyes held the same determination that Chen recognized in her own reflection. "The research staff thinks this is their best chance to study Zephyrian technology up close," he said. "The engineers want to stay to help with the defenses, and the medical team refuses to abandon anyone who might need treatment. James, these aren't pirates or raiders. These are the Zephyrians. They don't take prisoners. They don't negotiate. They show up, they kill everyone, and they move on to the next target. I know that. They know that too. But they also know that someone needs to stand witness. If we're all going to die anyway, at least we can make sure Earth learns something from it." Chen stared at him for a long moment, then turned back to the tactical display. "How many evacuation pods do we have?" 6. Each one can carry 3 people in emergency configuration. 18 people. That leaves 14 who stay behind. Actually, it leaves 32 who stay behind. Nobody's going, Sarah. We talked about it, we voted on it, and the decision was unanimous. Outpost 7 is our home. We're not running. For just a moment, Chen felt overwhelmed by the loyalty of her people. These weren't soldiers who'd sworn an oath to fight and die for humanity. They were civilians who'd signed up to study alien plants and analyze mineral samples. But when death came knocking, they'd chosen to stand together. "All right," she said finally. "If we're doing this, we're doing it right. I want everyone cross-trained on basic combat procedures. I want backup plans for our backup plans. And I want every single advantage we can create, no matter how small." "What kind of advantages?" Chen gestured to the tactical display, which now showed the asteroid that served as their foundation. "The Zephyrians are used to fighting in space or on planetary surfaces. They've probably never dealt with an enemy that's dug into an asteroid. Our gravity is artificial, which means we can adjust it. Our atmosphere is controlled, which means we can vent sections to space. And our power grid is modular, which means we can overload sections for defensive purposes." Harrison nodded slowly. "You want to turn the entire outpost into a weapon. I want to turn it into a surprise. When those ships arrive, they're going to scan us and see exactly what they expect. A small research station with minimal defenses and frightened civilians. They won't see the improvised explosives we're placing throughout the structure. They won't detect the modified mining equipment we're repositioning. And they definitely won't expect us to fight back with everything we've got. Can we actually win?" Chen looked at him steadily. "Probably not. But we can make sure they remember us. And maybe, if we're very lucky and very smart, we can hurt them badly enough that they think twice before attacking the next human outpost they encounter." The next few hours passed in a blur of frantic activity. The outpost's small crew worked with the focused intensity of people who knew their lives depended on every decision. Rodriguez and Webb worked together to modify the asteroid's point defense system, turning navigation lasers into crude but effective anti-ship weapons. The engineering team, led by Chief Engineer Patricia Kowalski, began placing mining charges throughout the outpost's structure, creating a network of potential ambush points. Meanwhile, Harrison's research team did something they'd never expected to do. They began studying the Zephyrians as a target rather than a subject. Every scrap of data from Proxima Centauri was analyzed and cross-referenced. Every tactical report was memorized. By the time the alien fleet reached the edge of their system, the humans of Outpost 7 knew their enemy better than any human force in history. "Final approach in 1 hour," Webb reported from the communication station. "They're still not responding to our messages." Chen nodded. She hadn't expected them to. According to the Proxima Centauri survivors, the Zephyrians preferred to communicate through actions rather than words. Their message would be delivered in plasma fire and particle beams. "All stations final preparations," she announced over the outpost's internal communication system. "Remember your assignments, remember your training, and remember that Earth is watching. We might be 8 light years from home, but we're still humanity's representatives out here. Let's make sure we represent well." She cut the communication and looked around the command center one last time. Her people were at their stations, faces calm despite the approaching storm. They'd done everything they could to prepare. Now it was time to see if their preparations would be enough. "Incoming transmission," Webb announced suddenly. "It's from the Zephyrian fleet." On screen. The main display flickered and resolved into the image of something that might have once been humanoid but had been modified far beyond recognition. The Zephyrian commander stood nearly 3 meters tall, its body covered in what appeared to be a combination of natural armor plating and technological augmentation. 4 arms emerged from its torso, each ending in hands that looked capable of crushing steel. Its face was predatory, with eyes that glowed like amber stars and teeth that belonged on something designed for tearing flesh. When it spoke, its voice was like grinding metal. Given voice. "Human settlement," it said in accented but understandable English. "You have been selected for incorporation into the Zephyrian Empire. Surrender your technology and your lives, and your deaths will be swift. Resist, and we will take hours to complete our work." Chen stood and faced the display, her back straight and her expression calm. "Zephyrian Commander, this is Commander Sarah Chen of Outpost 7, representing the United Earth Colonial Administration. Your presence in this system is an act of war against humanity. I advise you to withdraw immediately." The Zephyrian's laugh was like breaking glass. "You advisors? You are 32 primitives clinging to a rock in space. We are the Zephyrian Empire, conquerors of 47 star systems. Your advice is not required." "Then let me offer you some information instead," Chen replied. "This outpost is under the protection of the Earth Colonial Defense Force. Any attack on this installation will be considered an act of aggression against all of humanity. We will respond accordingly. Your response is not feared. Your colonial defense force is 8 years away. We will be gone long before they arrive, and you will be dead long before they learn of your fate." Chen smiled, and for just a moment, the Zephyrian commander's expression flickered with something that might have been uncertainty. "Commander," she said quietly, "you've made one crucial mistake in your calculations. You assume we're planning to wait for rescue. But you see, we don't need rescue. We just need to send a message that the rest of the galaxy will understand." "What message?" "That humanity doesn't surrender. Not ever. Not to anyone. And that anyone who tries to wipe us out had better bring everything they've got, because we certainly will." Chen cut the transmission before the Zephyrian could respond. Around the command center, her crew was grinning with fierce pride. They were about to face impossible odds against an enemy that had never known defeat, but they were going to meet that challenge as human beings, stubborn, inventive, and absolutely refusing to give up. "All stations," Chen announced. "This is it. Let's show them what humans can do when we're cornered." The first Zephyrian attack came exactly when Chen expected it, a probing strike designed to test their defenses and measure their response. 3 sleek fighters peeled away from the main fleet, their hulls gleaming like liquid silver in the light of Kepler. 4. They approached the asteroid in a lazy spiral, energy weapons charging with the casual confidence of predators approaching helpless prey. Chen watched them come from the command center, her hands steady on the tactical controls. Around her, the Outpost's small crew waited in tense silence. Everyone knew their role. Everyone understood that the next few minutes would determine whether humanity's presence in this system ended in glory or in shame. Range, 2,000 kilometers and closing.
Rodriguez reported from the weapons station.
"They're scanning us with active sensors. Let them look," Chen replied calmly. "Give them exactly what they expect to see." The Zephyrian fighters continued their approach, their scans no doubt revealing what appeared to be a lightly defended research station with minimal offensive capabilities. The point defense lasers were visible, but they were rated for asteroid deflection, not ship-to-ship combat. The mining equipment looked like civilian-grade tools. Everything about Outpost 7 screamed easy target to eyes accustomed to evaluating military threats, which was exactly what Chen wanted them to think. 1,000 kilometers, Rodriguez announced. "Energy weapons coming online. They're targeting our communications array and power grid." "Standard opening move," Chen murmured. "Cut off communications and kill power to disable defenses." "Webb, are you ready?" "Transmission ready, ma'am." Webb confirmed from his station. "Emergency beacon, broad spectrum, maximum power. Wait for my signal." Chen watched the tactical display as the fighters closed to optimal firing range. 800 kilometers. 700, 600. The lead Zephyrian fighter opened fire at exactly 550 kilometers, its plasma cannons painting space in brilliant streaks of superheated gas. The shots were perfectly aimed, designed to cripple the Outpost's primary systems without destroying the installation entirely. The Zephyrians liked their conquests intact when possible, but Outpost 7 wasn't exactly where the Zephyrians thought it was. "Now," Chen barked. Webb slammed his hand down on the transmission control, sending a massive burst of electromagnetic energy in all directions. To the Zephyrian sensors, it looked like the Outpost's main reactor overloading in a cascade failure. Emergency systems treated throughout the installation, venting atmosphere and cutting power to non-essential systems. To any observer, Outpost 7 appeared to be dying, except that the power grid failures were carefully controlled and the venting atmosphere was coming from pre-positioned gas canisters rather than life support breaches. And while the Zephyrian fighters were congratulating themselves on a successful strike, they failed to notice the asteroid's rotation slowly bringing previously hidden weapon systems to bear. "Targets acquired," Rodriguez announced quietly. "Modified mining lasers locked on. Fire." What happened next would have been impossible with standard mining equipment. But Chief Engineer Kowalski and her team had spent the previous 6 hours performing modifications that would have violated about 30 different safety regulations. They'd stripped the safety limiters from the lasers, rerouted power from life support systems to boost their output, and programmed them to fire in coordinated bursts rather than the steady beams used for ore processing. The result was devastatingly effective. The lead Zephyrian fighter simply vanished, its hull vaporized by concentrated energy that should never have come from a civilian installation. The second fighter managed to activate its shields, but the modified mining beams cut through them like paper, turning sophisticated alien technology into expanding clouds of superheated plasma. The third fighter pilot had enough time to realize that something was very wrong before Rodriguez triggered the final surprise. a spread of proximity mines disguised as harmless ore samples scattered around the asteroid's perimeter during the previous night's EVA operations. The explosion was visible from the Zephyrian fleet, 26,000 kilometers away.
3 confirmed kills, Rodriguez reported with satisfaction. Enemy fighters destroyed. Chen allowed herself a small smile. Webb, open a channel to the main fleet. The display flickered to life, showing the Zephyrian commander's reaction to the loss of his scouts. The alien's predatory features were twisted in what might have been surprise or possibly rage. When he spoke, his voice carried an edge that hadn't been there before. Clever, he admitted. You hide your true capabilities well, but 3 fighters are nothing to us.
We have 24 ships of the line, each one capable of sterilizing a planet. Your tricks will not save you.
Maybe not, Chen agreed, but they'll make things interesting.
Tell me, Commander, how many systems have you conquered where the defenders actually fought back? Resistance is not uncommon, but it is always futile.
Is it?
Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like your perfect record just got a few scratches in it. 3 ships down, 0 human casualties. At this rate, you might actually have to work for your victory. The Zephyrian commander's eyes narrowed. You mistake a minor setback for a significant victory. Your tricks will not work twice. You're probably right, Chen said cheerfully. Good thing we've got about 40 more where those came from. She cut the transmission and turned to her crew. They were grinning now, the impossible tension of the previous hours temporarily broken by the sight of alien fighters reduced to expanding debris clouds.
But Chen knew the real fight was just beginning.
Nice work, people, she said. But don't get cocky. That was the easy part.
Now they know we can fight back, which means they'll stop playing games. Rodriguez, status report on our remaining weapons.
Mining lasers at 60% power due to the energy surge. We've got 17 more proximity mines positioned around the perimeter, plus the shape charges throughout the facility.
The point defense grid is fully operational, but it's designed for small targets.
What about our ace in the hole? Rodriguez grinned.
The fusion charges are armed and ready. Chief Kowalski confirms the containment fields are stable.
Chen nodded grimly.
The fusion charges were their last resort, mining equipment designed to crack open particularly stubborn asteroids by creating controlled nuclear explosions. Used defensively, they could create a localized sun that would vaporize anything within 1,000 kilometers. Of course, that included the outpost itself, but sometimes the only way to win was to make sure the other guy lost worse.
Incoming transmission, Webb announced.
It's from Earth Command. Chen raised an eyebrow. That was fast. Put it through. The display shifted to show Admiral Patricia Zhao, commander of Earth's Colonial Defense Force. Zhao was a small woman with steel-grey hair and eyes like winter storms, a career military officer who'd earned her rank through 30 years of keeping humanity's colonies safe from everything the galaxy could throw at them. Commander Chen, Zhao said without preamble, we received your transmission 43 minutes ago. I want you to know that Fleet Admiral Harrison is mobilizing every available ship for immediate departure to your location. Chen felt her heart sink. Ma'am, with respect, even our fastest ships would take months to reach us. By the time help arrives, you'll have shown the galaxy that humans don't back down from bullies, no matter how big they are. Zhao interrupted. Chen, I'm not going to lie to you. The odds are against you. But sometimes the odds don't matter as much as the principle. You and your people represent humanity out there. Make us proud. We'll do our best, ma'am. I know you will. And Chen? When this is over, when the full story reaches Earth, every human in the colonies will know what you did. Your stand will be remembered. The transmission ended, leaving the command center in thoughtful silence. Chen looked around at her crew, seeing the mix of fear and determination in their faces. They all understood now that they were fighting not just for their own lives, but for something larger. They were making a statement that would echo across human space for generations to come. Ma'am, Webb said quietly, the Zephyrian fleet is moving. Full advance, all ships. Chen turned back to the tactical display. 24 warships were accelerating toward the asteroid, their energy signatures blazing like angry stars. The time for clever tricks and surprise attacks was over. Now it would be a straight fight between human determination and Zephyrian firepower. All stations, Chen announced over the internal communication system. This is the real thing. They're coming with everything they've got. Remember your assignments. Trust your training, and know that whatever happens next, We're going to make them pay for every meter of space they take. The next hour unfolded like a carefully choreographed dance of destruction. The Zephyrian fleet approached in perfect formation, their ships layered with overlapping fields of fire and mutual support. It was a textbook assault formation, designed to overwhelm defenses through coordinated firepower while minimizing their own losses. It was also exactly what Chen had been hoping they would do. "Wait for it," she murmured, watching the fleet close to effective range. "Wait for it." The Zephyrians opened fire at 20,000 kilometers, their plasma cannons and particle beams creating a light show that turned space itself into a field of deadly energy. The asteroid shook under the impact of weapons that could have leveled cities, but Outpost 7's structure held. The installation had been built to withstand the stress of deep space mining operations, and those same construction standards now served as armor against alien assault. "Return fire," Chen ordered. The outpost's modified defenses spoke in unison. Mining lasers, point defense cannons, and improvised weapons created a deadly crossfire that caught the lead Zephyrian ships by surprise. 2 destroyers lost their shields immediately, their hulls scarred by energy that should never have come from a civilian installation. A cruiser took a direct hit to its engine section and began falling behind the main formation, trailing superheated plasma-like blood from a wounded predator. But the Zephyrians adapted quickly. They spread their formation, used their superior mobility to avoid the fixed weapon positions, and began systematically destroying the outpost's defensive systems. One by one, the mining lasers went silent. The point defense grid flickered and died. Within 30 minutes, Outpost 7's ability to fight back at long range was effectively neutralized. "They're closing to boarding range," Rodriguez reported. "Multiple ships converging on docking vectors." Chen smiled grimly. "Perfect. Webb, activate the internal defenses." Throughout the outpost, hidden systems came online. Blast doors sealed critical passages while others opened to create kill zones. The artificial gravity systems, normally set to provide comfortable Earth-normal conditions, began fluctuating in patterns designed to disorient invaders. Atmospheric controls vented sections to space while flooding others with inert gas. The first Zephyrian boarding pods slammed into the outpost's hull like spears thrown by angry gods. Cutting beams sliced through titanium steel, creating breach points for the assault troops to pour through. But instead of finding frightened civilians cowering in their quarters, the Zephyrians encountered prepared defensive positions manned by humans who had no intention of surrendering. Dr. Harrison crouched behind an improvised barricade in the research section. A mining tool converted to a makeshift weapon clutched in his hands. He'd never been a soldier, but 3 years of frontier living had taught him how to handle dangerous situations with calm professionalism. When the first Zephyrian warrior came through the breach, Harrison was ready. The alien was everything the reports had described: tall, heavily armored, and moving with the fluid grace of a born predator. Its weapon was some kind of energy rifle that probably cost more than the entire outpost's annual budget. In any fair fight, Harrison wouldn't have lasted 30 seconds. Fortunately, he wasn't planning to fight fair. The shaped charge hidden in the wall behind him detonated with precisely calculated force, bringing down half the corridor and trapping the Zephyrian assault team in a debris field. While they struggled to clear the rubble, Harrison triggered the atmospheric controls, flooding their section with carbon dioxide, while simultaneously dropping the temperature to near freezing. The Zephyrians were tough, but they still needed to breathe. Similar scenes played out throughout the outpost as the human defenders used every advantage their home ground could provide. Chief Engineer Kowalski turned the power grid into a weapon, overloading sections to create electromagnetic pulses that disrupted Zephyrian equipment. Medical Officer Dr. Elizabeth Santos used her knowledge of alien physiology to create improvised chemical weapons from the outpost's supply of industrial solvents. Even the civilian researchers contributed, using their scientific instruments to blind enemy sensors and disrupt communications. But for all their ingenuity and determination, the humans were fighting a losing battle. The Zephyrians were simply too strong, too fast, and too numerous. Inch by inch, section by section, the aliens carved their way through the outpost's defenses. The human casualty count began to climb. Medical to Section 7, Dr. Santos's voice crackled over the communication system. "We've got wounded." Chen's jaw clenched as she watched the tactical display. Half the outpost was now under Zephyrian control, and the enemy was advancing methodically toward the command center. Her people were fighting like heroes, but heroes could only do so much against superior firepower and numbers. "Ma'am," Rodriguez said quietly, "we're down to the final option."
Chen nodded slowly.
The fusion charges. It would mean destroying the outpost and everyone in it, but it would also take out most of the Zephyrian fleet. A Pyrrhic victory, but still a victory of sorts. At the very least, it would send a message that humans were willing to die rather than submit. Not yet, she said. Give our people a few more minutes. But even as she spoke, she knew those minutes were running out. The Zephyrians were closing in on the command center, and soon there would be nowhere left to retreat. The final stand was about to begin, and Chen had one last card to play. A card that would either save them all or ensure they went down in flames that would be visible across the galaxy. The command center shook as another blast door gave way somewhere in the depths of the outpost. Chen could hear the distinctive whine of Zephyrian energy weapons echoing through the corridors, growing closer with each passing minute. Her remaining crew worked frantically at their stations, coordinating the final defense while automated systems counted down to what seemed like inevitable defeat. Section 12 has fallen, Webb reported, his voice steady despite the circumstances. Dr. Harrison's team is falling back to Section 9. Chen nodded, studying the tactical display with the focused intensity of a chess master examining an endgame position. Red zones marked areas under Zephyrian control, while shrinking patches of blue showed where human defenders still held their ground. At the current rate of advancement, the aliens would reach the command center within 20 minutes. Unless, of course, Chen implemented her final plan. Rodriguez, she said quietly. Status on the quantum resonance array? The tactical officer looked up from his console, confusion flickering across his features. Ma'am? The QRA is purely for research purposes. It's designed to study subspace communications, not what? Not weaponized applications? Chen's smile held no humor. Rodriguez, I spent 2 years as a combat engineer with the Deep Space Research Division before taking this command. Do you really think they sent me out here just to oversee mineral surveys? Understanding dawned in Rodriguez's eyes. You're talking about the Jakarta incident. I'm talking about classified research that officially never happened, Chen corrected. But yes, the same principles apply. The quantum resonance array can create a localized subspace distortion. Under normal circumstances, we use it to punch a signal through dimensions and send messages faster than light. But with the right modifications, we can punch something a lot bigger than a message, Webb finished, his own understanding catching up. Jesus, Sarah, you're talking about opening a rift in space-time itself. Chen nodded grimly. A controlled rift, small, localized, and very temporary, but sufficient to create a gravitational anomaly that would disrupt the local space-time matrix. Any ship caught in the effect would find itself dealing with forces that make black holes look gentle. And us? Rodriguez asked. We'd be at the epicenter. The outpost would be destroyed instantly. But so would the entire Zephyrian fleet. The command center fell silent, except for the distant sounds of battle. Chen's remaining crew stared at her, absorbing the implications of what she was proposing. It was a suicide mission of the most literal kind. A weapon that would annihilate everything within 1,000 kilometers of the activation point. Ma'am, Webb said slowly. How certain are you that this will work? 90%, Chen replied honestly. Maybe 95. The theory is sound, and we successfully tested a scaled-down version in the Jovian system 3 years ago. Of course, we only created a rift the size of a marble, not one big enough to swallow a fleet. And the other 5 to 10%? The other 5 to 10% involves the possibility that we accidentally tear a hole in the fabric of reality that doesn't close properly. In which case, this entire star system becomes uninhabitable for the next few million years. Dr. Harrison's voice crackled through the communication system. Command, this is Research Section 9. We're pinned down, but holding. What's our status? Chen keyed the communication system. James, I need to ask you a question, and I need an honest answer. The quantum resonance array in your lab, can it be modified for a Class 7 event? There was a long pause before Harrison responded. Sarah, please tell me you're not thinking what I think you're thinking. Can it be done? Another pause. Yes. But the power requirements would drain our entire grid, including life support, and the targeting array would need to be manually calibrated from inside the lab itself. Whoever does the calibration wouldn't have time to reach minimum safe distance. Understood. How long do you need? 20 minutes for the modifications, another 10 for calibration and activation. Chen looked around the command center. Half an hour. The Zephyrians would be through their final defenses long before then, unless someone bought them time. Do it, she ordered. Webb, Rodriguez, you're with Dr. Harrison. Get to the research section and help with the modifications. What about you? Rodriguez asked. Chen stood up from her command chair for what she knew would be the last time. I'm going to buy you 30 minutes. Take the long route through Section 15. Avoid the main corridors. And remember, once you start the modifications, there's no going back. The quantum field buildup will be detectable throughout the system. Webb stood as well. Ma'am, with respect, you can't hold them off alone. I'm not planning to hold them off. I'm planning to give them something to think about. Chen moved to a supply locker and began pulling out equipment. A portable power pack, a modified mining laser, and something that looked like a sophisticated electronic device. Ever hear of a dead man's switch? Understanding dawned on Rodriguez's face. You're going to threaten to detonate the fusion charges manually. Not threaten. Promise. The moment they break through to the command center, every fusion charge in the outpost goes off simultaneously. That won't destroy the fleet like the quantum rift will, but it'll take out at least half their ships. Either way, the Zephyrians lose. Chen finished her preparations and turned to face her crew. These people had served under her command for 3 years, through accidents and discoveries, through the routine of deep space research and the terror of alien invasion. They deserve to know the truth. Ladies and gentlemen, she said formally, it has been an honor serving with you. When this is over, when the full story reaches Earth, people will remember that 32 humans faced impossible odds and chose to stand their ground. They'll remember that we didn't surrender, we didn't run, and we made the bullies of the galaxy pay the price for underestimating the human spirit. Webb saluted, followed immediately by Rodriguez and the rest of the crew. Ma'am, it's been an honor serving under your command. Now get going, Chen ordered. You've got work to do. As her crew filed out of the command center through the emergency access tunnel, Chen settled back into her command chair and activated the outpost's internal communication system. Throughout the installation, human voices responded to her call. Dr. Santos from the medical bay where she was treating wounded defenders. Chief Engineer Kowalski from the power plant where she was rerouting systems to support the quantum array. Ensign Park from the communications station where he was maintaining contact with the scattered defensive teams. All stations, Chen announced. This is the commander. I want everyone to know that Dr. Harrison's team is implementing a final solution. In approximately 30 minutes, this engagement will be over. The Zephyrians will be defeated, but the cost will be high. Anyone who wants to record final messages for family back home, now is the time. She paused, looking around the empty command center. Through the observation windows, she could see the distant flashes of weapons fire as the battle continued in the outer sections. Soon, those flashes would reach the heart of the installation. I want you all to know, she continued, that Earth will remember what we did here. Our stand will become legend. Children will learn our names, and anyone in the galaxy who thinks humans are easy targets will think again. The first Zephyrian energy blast hit the command center's outer door 37 minutes later. Chen had used the time to make her own preparations, rigging the fusion charges for manual detonation while monitoring the progress of Harrison's modifications. The quantum resonance array was online and charging, its energy buildup creating localized distortions that the Zephyrian sensors couldn't quite identify. The outer door held for approximately 15 seconds before sophisticated alien cutting tools carved through titanium steel like butter. Chen watched calmly as armored figures poured through the breach, their weapons trained on everything that might represent a threat. They moved with the professional efficiency of soldiers, who had done this dozens of times before. Human Commander, the lead Zephyrian called out in accented English. You will surrender your command codes and disable your remaining defenses. Chen stood slowly, her hands visible and empty except for the small device she held in her right palm. Zephyrian warrior, I am Commander Sarah Chen of Outpost 7. I have a counter-proposal. The alien's weapon remained trained on her center mass. You are in no position to negotiate. Actually, I'm in the perfect position to negotiate. See this device? It's connected to the fusion charges placed throughout this installation. If my heart stops beating, if my brain activity ceases, or if I simply choose to press this button, every charge detonates simultaneously. The resulting explosion will vaporize everything within 800 kilometers. The Zephyrian paused, its enhanced sensors probably detecting the electromagnetic signature of the dead man's switch. You would die as well. I would, but so would most of your fleet. And honestly, after the last few hours, I'm thinking that's a fair trade. For a moment, the command center was silent, except for the hum of alien equipment and the distant sounds of battle. The Zephyrian commander was clearly trying to evaluate whether Chen was bluffing. Unfortunately for him, she wasn't. You cannot threaten the Empire, he said finally. We have conquered 47 star systems. We do not yield to the desperate gestures of inferior species, Chen smiled. Inferior? Commander, let me tell you what your inferior species accomplished today. We turned mining equipment into ship killers. We used our own life support systems as weapons. We turned every corridor of this installation into a killing field. And we did it all with 32 people who signed up to study alien plant life. The Zephyrian's grip tightened on his weapon. Your resistance ends now. Does it? 'Cause I'm curious about something. You've conquered 47 star systems, but how many of them fought back? How many made you pay for every meter of ground? How many left you wondering if conquest was really worth the cost? Chen could see uncertainty in the alien's glowing eyes. For the first time in the Empire's history, they were facing an enemy that simply refused to acknowledge defeat. The Zephyrians were used to inspiring fear, but humans seemed to respond to overwhelming odds with stubborn defiance rather than terror. Your point? The commander asked. My point is that you're about to learn something about humanity that you should probably report back to your superiors. We don't surrender. We don't accept defeat. And when you try to wipe us out, we make sure you pay such a high price that you think twice before trying it again. Chen's communication earpiece crackled with Harrison's voice. Sarah, we're ready. Quantum array is charged and targeted. Activation in 60 seconds. She keyed her microphone with a casual gesture. Understood. All stations prepare for final phase. The Zephyrian commander's enhanced hearing caught the transmission. What final phase? Chen's smile widened. The phase where you learn that humans always keep one more surprise in reserve. Tell me, Commander, what do you know about quantum mechanics? Before the alien could answer, space around the outpost began to twist. The quantum resonance array activated with a sound like reality itself groaning under strain. The effect was invisible to normal perception, but every sensor on every ship in the system suddenly began screaming warnings about massive gravitational anomalies. Space-time itself was being folded, twisted, and reshaped by forces that most civilizations only encountered in the hearts of collapsed stars. The Zephyrian fleet, confident in their superior technology and firepower, found themselves caught in a gravitational maelstrom that their ships were never designed to handle. Hulls that could withstand direct hits from antimatter warheads began to buckle under stresses that violated the normal laws of physics. Drive systems that could push vessels faster than light failed catastrophically when space itself became unreliable. One by one, the proud warships of the Zephyrian Empire were compressed into impossibly dense points of matter before vanishing entirely into the artificial rift that Dr. Haff fit. Harrison's modified equipment had torn in the fabric of reality. The effect lasted exactly 47 seconds before the quantum field collapsed and space-time snapped back to its normal configuration. When the distortions cleared, only empty vacuum remained where the Zephyrian fleet had been. In the command center, the alien warriors stared through the observation windows at the destruction of their entire invasion force. Their commander's weapon wavered as he processed the impossible sight of his people's most powerful fleet, simply ceasing to exist. How? He whispered. Chen lowered the dead man switch, no longer needing its threat, the same way we do everything else. We figure out what's supposed to be impossible, and then we do it anyway. The Zephyrian commander looked at her with something that might have been respect. Your species is insane. Maybe, but we're also free, and we plan to stay that way. The alien slowly lowered his weapon. Around him, his surviving troops followed suit. They were warriors bred for conquest, but there was no dishonor in acknowledging a superior enemy. And whatever else humans might be, they had just proved themselves superior in the only way that truly mattered. We yield, the commander said formally. The Empire will remember this day. Chen nodded. Good. Make sure they remember it accurately. When the next Zephyrian fleet considers attacking human space, I want them to think very carefully about whether it's worth the risk. 3 days later, a single Zephyrian ship departed the Kepler 442 system, carrying the survivors of the invasion force. They would return to their empire with news that would shake the foundation of their conquest-based society. They had encountered a species that simply could not be conquered, no matter what odds they faced. Meanwhile, Outpost 7 settled into the routine business of rebuilding. The quantum resonance array would need months of repairs before it could be safely operated again. The fusion charges had to be replaced and repositioned. Most importantly, the story of their stand had to be properly documented and transmitted to Earth. Chen stood once again at the observation deck, looking out at the same alien landscape that had seemed so threatened 3 days earlier. Now it looked peaceful again, beautiful in its crystalline strangeness. But she knew that peace had been bought with human blood and human determination. Commander, Webb called from behind her. We've got an incoming transmission from Earth Command. Chen turned, expecting to see Admiral Zhao's familiar features on the display. Instead, she found herself looking at Fleet Admiral Harrison himself, the highest-ranking officer in the Colonial Defense Force. His expression was unreadable. "Commander Chen," he said formally, "I've just finished reviewing Dr. Banana Harrison's preliminary report on your engagement with hostile forces. I have 3 questions." "Yes, sir?" "First, are you completely insane?" Chen considered the question seriously. "Probably, sir, but it seemed like the best option available at the time." "Second, do you have any idea what you've done to our understanding of quantum mechanics?" "Doctor, Harrison's report suggests you've basically rewritten the laws of physics." "We improvised, sir. The situation seemed to call for creative solutions." Admiral Harrison was quiet for a long moment. Then his stern expression cracked into a grin. "Third question. How would you like a promotion to Fleet Captain and Command of our new Deep Space Research Division? Because after what you pulled off out there, I think we need to start taking a more aggressive approach to exploration and defense." Chen looked around the command center at her surviving crew. These people had followed her into what should have been certain death, had trusted her judgment even when that judgment led them to attempt the impossible. They deserved recognition for what they'd accomplished. "Sir, I'd be honored," she said. "But I have one condition." "Name it." "My entire crew comes with me. Every single person who stood with us during the siege. They've earned the right to be part of whatever comes next." Admiral Harrison nodded approvingly. "Done." "Welcome to the big leagues, Captain Chen. Something tells me the galaxy is about to become a much more interesting place." As the transmission ended, Chen turned back to the observation deck. Somewhere out in the vast darkness between stars, word of humanity's stand was spreading. The Zephyrian Empire would think twice before threatening human space again. Other species would hear the story and wonder what kind of people could turn a research station into a fortress and a scientific instrument into a weapon of mass destruction. The answer was simple: humans. Stubborn, ingenious, absolutely refusing to surrender humans who had earned their place among the stars not through conquest or intimidation, but through the simple determination to never, ever give up. And as the first ships from Earth's relief fleet began to appear at the edge of the system, Chen knew that Outpost 7's stand had been just the beginning. Humanity was ready to take its place as a major power in galactic affairs, not as conquerors, but as the species that even conquerors learned to respect. The galaxy would never be quite the same again.